Stephen Miller's wife is finally breaking her silence.
Stephen Miller, a name synonymous with cruelty, extremism, and some of the darkest chapters of modern American politics. He wasn't just a Trump advisor, he was the architect of the administration's harshest, most draconian immigration policies. But now, Miller is facing a public reckoning, and it's coming from the most unexpected place: his own home. This is the story of how Stephen Miller, the man who once stood at the pinnacle of power, is now being dragged into the mud, not by political opponents, but by the cracks forming in his own world. From ICE raids and legal battles to personal betrayals and explosive rumors involving Elon Musk, this is a scandal unraveling at every level, and it's time to break it all down. Stephen Miller built his reputation on policies designed to shock and terrify. From the Muslim Los Aban to family separations at the border, he engineered cruelty into law. He turned ICE into a militarized machine, descending on cities with masked agents and armored vehicles. Los Angeles became one of the first battlegrounds, where communities were invaded under the guise of law and order. But as masked ICE squads stormed peaceful protests and terrified immigrant neighborhoods, the media largely looked the other way. Those who did speak out were often silenced or dismissed. Meanwhile, Miller's influence only grew. This was never just immigration enforcement, it was an ideological war. Miller and Trump painted Los Angeles as a battlefield, claiming the city was overrun by criminals and aliens, that it needed to be liberated. The reality? Nearly 34% of LA County is foreign-born. The so-called liberation was an attack on the residents themselves.
Or even about an hour ago, he said that we have been invaded by criminals and aliens and that he wants to liberate the city of Los Angeles. That kind of language inflames tensions, makes things worse. When he has people that show up, not in normal ICE uniforms that they used to wear to, do a raid or do different things, but in kind of militarized uniforms, then that's what kind of sparks the increased tension. So we know that he's been planning on this for a while. They want this showdown between us, California, because they don't like what we represent. LA County alone is 34% foreign-born, 34%. So when he says they're going to liberate us, who is he going to liberate us from? Ourselves? So one of the things we want to do is to make sure that people know that it's Donald Trump who's actually making the situation worse.
Miller's policies weren't just about immigration, they were about dominance. He orchestrated psychological warfare on communities of color, targeting schools, graduations, and public events to instill fear. He envisioned a country ruled by chaos, where unrest would justify emergency powers and martial law. And when he began publicly suggesting suspending habeas corpus, his true vision became undeniable. This wasn't about national security, it was about authoritarian control. Even as critics called attention to the dystopian implications, Miller remained defiant, stating, "The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion." He wasn't hiding it. He was bragging.
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article III courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases.
Katie Miller, Stephen's wife and a former aide to Vice President Mike Pence, had long remained silent about her husband's policies. But then came the unexpected shift. Rumors swirled online. Elon Musk, the tech titan, had allegedly formed a personal connection with Katie. As speculation grew, silence held. Until it didn't. Katie Miller broke her silence, but not to address the rumors, not to defend the immigrants impacted by her husband's policies. No, she emerged to defend Stephen and to attack journalist Terry Moran for calling Miller what he truly is, a man powered by hatred. Katie's tweet condemned Moran and demanded he be fired. But what raised even more eyebrows was her Twitter banner, which had mysteriously changed to feature a SpaceX rocket. A subtle nod? A trolling gesture? Either way, the timing was unmistakable, and the internet noticed. This wasn't a stand for justice, it was damage control, and the hypocrisy couldn't be more glaring. While Katie stayed silent when her name was tied to Elon Musk, she found her voice to protect Stephen Miller's ego, not to defend truth. not to advocate justice, but to guard an image built on cruelty. ABC's Terry Moran called out Miller as a high-functioning sadist, someone who didn't operate on intellect but on pure bile. The backlash was swift. MAGA pundits, including Trump's press secretary, launched into meltdown mode, demanding Moran be punished.
So-called journalist Terry Moran went on a rampage against Stephen Miller. What happened, Caroline?
Well, ABC is going to have to answer for what their, again, so-called journalist put out on Twitter in the wee hours of the night, calling Stephen Miller vile. They said that President Trump is a world-class hater. And this is, again, coming from someone who is supposed to be an unbiased and professional journalist. This is unacceptable and unhinged rhetoric coming from someone who works at a major television network. We have reached out to ABC. They have said they will be taking action, so we will see what they do.
Caroline Leavitt, Trump's mouthpiece, appeared on air frothing with anger, accusing Moran of unhinged rhetoric. She declared ABC must answer for its journalist and declared Moran's words unacceptable. The irony? All he did was speak the truth, and ABC, caving under political pressure, suspended him.
It's interesting that one set of behavior somehow is going to get a family rich overnight.
Yes, the network caved to pressure from the very people who weaponize victimhood while dismantling democracy. Speaking the truth about a public figure became grounds for punishment, not because it was false, but because it struck a nerve. While this media drama played out, the real danger loomed behind the scenes. Under Trump and Miller, the Department of Homeland Security was quietly dismantling the very offices tasked with oversight. Offices designed to protect civil rights, investigate abuse, and ensure humane treatment were shut down. Immigrant deaths in ICE custody rose. Investigations disappeared. Accountability vanished. 9 detainees died in ICE custody during Trump's term. The Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, along with the Ombudsman's office responsible for monitoring detention conditions, were dismantled. These weren't bureaucratic changes. They were premeditated acts to erase transparency and justice. As these internal watchdogs were dismantled, lawmakers stepped in. Congressional Democrats visited detention centers across the country, from Florida to New Jersey, to monitor conditions and ensure humane treatment. But now these members are being threatened with prosecution. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett fired back. She laid it all out. January 6th insurrectionists were given due process. Many were sentenced, some have even been pardoned, yet today, elected officials are being criminalized for showing up to investigate abuse. This isn't oversight, it's obstruction.
Facilities. The simple answer is, without them, there will be no internal oversight offices to assess the legality of the Trump administration's policies on immigration enforcement. So what have the results been? Since Trump took office on January 20th, 9 detainees have died in ICE custody. In fact, in Trump's first month in office, more detainees died in ICE custody than at any time since fiscal year 2020. Congressional Democrats have engaged in oversight activities of immigration facilities across the country, from Florida, where a 44-year-old Haitian woman died in ICE custody, to Newark, New Jersey, where 3 of our Democratic colleagues visited an immigration detention facility to ensure the humane treatment of detainees. This wasn't about going in and breaking nobody out, y'all, especially when there were cameras rolling everywhere. That's not what they were there to do. Now, in a breathtaking act of executive obstruction of congressional oversight and the unprecedented weaponization of the Department of Justice, we have an interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey who for years has argued in court that Donald Trump is above the law. She has announced criminal charges against Congresswoman McIver for, quote, impeding and interfering with law enforcement. However, our power as members of Congress to conduct oversight is found in the Constitution and federal law. In fact, federal law explicitly prohibits DHS from, quote, preventing a member of Congress from entering for the purpose of conducting oversight any facility operated by or 4, the Department of Homeland Security used to detain or otherwise house aliens or to make any temporary modification at any such facility that in any way alters what is observed by a visiting member of Congress. It is against the law. Full stop. Separately, the court has consistently held that the speech and debate clause of the Constitution protects individual members from prosecution for legislative acts, including, quote, fact-finding, field investigations, and information gathering. The court has consistently held that the primary purpose of the speech and debate clause is to, quote, prevent intimidation by the executive and before a possibly hostile judiciary. So let's call this for what it is. This administration is criminalizing legislative oversight, and the Republicans on this committee are helping them to do so.
Federal law prohibits DHS from blocking members of Congress from accessing detention facilities. It's not a courtesy, it's the law. And now that law is being twisted to punish those who speak out. Katie Miller's defense of her husband wasn't just a PR blunder, it was a revealing moment of truth. She didn't deny the cruelty. She didn't explain the policies. She didn't apologize for the pain caused. She simply attacked those who dared to name it. That's the quiet confession, not a denial, but an affirmation. The Millers know what they did. They just don't want anyone else to talk about it. Stephen Miller is being humiliated, not by chance, but by the consequences of his own creation. His policies, his power plays, and his ideological warfare are now collapsing under scrutiny. And while his wife clutches at control, the truth is slipping through their fingers. This isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning, one that shows how even the most fortified empires of fear can crumble from within. So if you're done watching the worst people escape accountability, speak up, stay loud, because truth, in times like these, is resistance. Until next time, stay fearless, stay loud, and keep dragging the truth into the light. If you found this breakdown important, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below to share your thoughts. Your voice matters, and together, we're keeping the pressure on. It started with a video, a strange, awkward clip that hit social media like a lightning bolt. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, appeared in what looked like a hospital room, dancing, laughing, even twerking next to Prince Harry. The music? A track about being a baby mama and demanding child support. The reactions were instant. Confusion, disbelief, and then speculation. Was she really pregnant, or was something far more bizarre unfolding before our eyes? This wasn't just another viral moment. It reignited a royal conspiracy that's lingered on the internet's fringe for years. But this time, something was different. Voices from inside the media, even outspoken personalities like Piers Morgan and Jeremy Kyle, weren't just watching. They were speaking up. And what they said shook the foundations of royal image-making itself.
You are witnessing a broken heart that is allowed to bleed openly. That is what we are witnessing.
That's not what I'm witnessing.
That is what you are witnessing.
I'm witnessing an entitled, arrogant, bitter, twisted little man who's had his claws dug into by a manipulative LA lady, and the pair of them have got on a mission, a wrecking ball mission, to enrich themselves by abusing the very institution which bestowed the titles to them, which they used to make money.
For years, whispers about Meghan Markle using a surrogate or prosthetic bump circulated in corners of the internet. They were dismissed as wild conspiracy theories, too taboo, too ridiculous to acknowledge. Until now. That hospital video showed Meghan dancing energetically, bending, squatting, movements that many moms say feel impossible in late pregnancy. The bump looked odd, too low, too perfect, too smooth. It seemed to move strangely under her dress. And suddenly, those once dismissed theories weren't so easy to ignore. Major media outlets had always tiptoed around these rumors, but after the video dropped, something shifted. Suddenly, journalists were whispering, producers were asking questions. Online chatter turned into newsroom queries. It didn't help that even medical professionals weighed in. Nurses and OBGYNs took to TikTok and X to point out inconsistencies. That's not a labor and delivery room, one nurse wrote. That fourth line isn't placed correctly. Others questioned the way the bump looked. Stiff, unmoving, almost artificial. Piers Morgan, never one to hold back, took the moment to voice what many had been thinking. "We're about 2 months away from the sex tape," he tweeted sarcastically. Harsh, yes, but it captured the bewilderment and anger many felt. Jeremy Kyle was no less blunt. He called the hospital room scene a lap dancing club with pregnant women, describing it as tasteless, embarrassing, and disrespectful to the monarchy.
She's dancing in front of the camera. Oh God, it looks like a lap dancing club with pregnant women. He's also dancing in front of the camera. She's got a black dress on. She's literally holding her bump and twerking, and she's put this on social media. The woman is that's getting worse now.
Both men, though controversial, reflected a growing sentiment. Meghan and Harry were no longer just breaking from tradition. They were ridiculing it. This isn't just about taste or decorum. It has real constitutional implications. In the UK, for a royal child to be eligible for titles in succession, they must be born of the body. Surrogacy, if used but undisclosed, could technically disqualify a child from the royal line. So if Meghan did use a surrogate and hid it, the issue isn't just about deception. It's about royal legitimacy. Internet sleuths dissected the footage frame by frame. They noticed how Meghan's bump moved unnaturally, how she bent and twerked with ease, how the entire setup felt more like a music video than a maternity celebration. The lyrics in the background didn't help. Bold, brash, referencing independence and child support. Hardly the tone you'd expect from a royal birth announcement. As scrutiny intensified, many questioned whether the scene had even been filmed in a real hospital. The bed, the lighting, the equipment, nothing matched what medical staff recognized as authentic. The room looked staged, and that only made the story more surreal. Commentators like Kinsey Schofield added fuel to the fire. This wasn't just about the video, she said. It was about what it represented, a breakdown of royal dignity. Meghan, once presented as a modern duchess, now looked more like a reality TV star. Even supporters were quiet. The usual wave of defenses didn't flood in. Instead, silence. An eerie pause from those who normally rallied to her side. Meghan said nothing. No response, no clarification, no press release. Her silence wasn't calming the situation, it was making it worse. With no denial, people assumed the worst. And in that vacuum, speculation took root. Again, in Australia, monarchy supporters like Alexandrina Marshall voiced concern. "This is a nightmare," she said, warning that Republicans would use this as proof the monarchy was outdated and absurd. Her fear? That one video could cause real damage to the monarchy's image abroad. Then came Norman Fenton, a mathematician, not a doctor, but someone trained in logic. He stated plainly, "This bump doesn't behave like a real pregnancy." He wasn't trying to diagnose or mock. He was pointing out how the visuals simply didn't align with what we know about late-term pregnancies. That brought everything back to the heart of the matter. Archie and Lilibet. If they were born via surrogate and it was hidden from the public, it could affect their status in the royal family. UK rules are specific. Born of the body means born of the royal mother's body. And Meghan's secrecy, combined with a performance that looked increasingly artificial, was no longer a personal matter. It had potential constitutional weight. Buckingham Palace hasn't addressed the video, no statements, no clarifications, just a stony strategic silence. But behind the scenes, royal insiders were reportedly furious. King Charles was said to be disappointed. Prince William, sources claimed, was livid, especially because this dragged the family back into chaos. What started as a fringe theory has become mainstream concern. Even major TV anchors who once defended Meghan are now admitting the video raises questions. If it was meant to shut down the rumors, one said, it had the opposite effect. Another added, this wasn't a candid moment, it was a character performance. And when royalty becomes performance art, it loses its legitimacy. As more days passed without a word from Meghan or Harry, the silence became damning. People began wondering what else might be hidden. If the bump wasn't real, what else wasn't? And now, petitions are circulating. Some call for an investigation. Others demand Archie and Lilibet's titles be suspended until proof of birth is verified. It's not just social media outrage anymore. It's evolving into a real political question. This isn't just about one odd video or one oddly shaped bump. It's about trust, transparency, and the image of the British monarchy. Whether Meghan Markle used a surrogate, wore a moon bump, or simply made a strange video, one thing is clear. The public wants answers, and the silence in this case is louder than any denial. Stay tuned, because if history tells us anything, royal secrets don't stay buried for long. Until next time, Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep questioning what you're told. If this video opened your eyes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss the next chapter in this royal saga. Drop a comment below. What do you believe really happened? Let's talk about it.